Watching Royce Gracie, UFC 1, 2, and 3, beating everyone with no gloves.
We have all these different, martial arts fighting each other. What martial art is the strongest? And it just proved that, jiu-jitsu at that time was the best.
And in a short period of time, he has taken on legendary status light heavyweight champ of the UFC, Jon Jones, who when he began his pro career was fighting in Massachusetts and New Jersey and Connecticut, basically nowhere near his Rochester, New York home. That's where he was born, which is only about a 2-hour drive or less west of us from here in Verona, New York. That's where we're coming from today as we see the situation of MMA still in the state of New York, where it is not officially recognized. It's still considered illegal, except on Native American reservations. Pro MMA can be held, and we are in one of the central parts of the state here, where around this area there has been pro MMA and amateur MMA. It seems like it's in the central part, the western part, and upstate New York. They have embraced it the most, and that's why we're here in Verona at the Turning Stone Casino and Resort for this special edition of Inside MMA. And welcome back in. I'm Kenny Rice. With me now is a man who has one of the partners in the largest MMA promotion in the state of New York, Gladius. Dave MacLean, welcome in.
Yeah, thanks, Kenny. Appreciate it.
Dave, you go back to the old Bomb Squad days. You knew a young Jon Jones, the young Bones Jones that was kind of getting ready to take off and become a great fighter when he was still training here locally.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I hooked up with the Bomb Squad around the Matt Hamill fight time when Jon was going to fight another New Yorker, Matt Hamill. And, yeah, I mean, at that point, the word was out on Jon anyway. I mean, we knew that this was a special guy. And, yeah, what an amazing run he's had, and very impressive and great for New York.
Interesting, you were talking about earlier, the stars have come out of the state, native New Yorkers like Matt Serra, who pulled the upset, of course, on George St. Pierre. Looking at the rest of these guys, Jones is a champ. Chris Weidman's now a champ. The very colorful, flamboyant Phil Baroni is a native New Yorker.
Right.
We've heard from some of the Gracie family, and of course, Enzo Gracie's been on. He has a great gym that's located down in the city, in Manhattan.
Right.
It's an interesting heritage. So the big deal is, what is the big deal about keeping this out of New York State? Right now, the way I understand it, you can only have your pro fights on reservations like we're on now on the Oneida Nation land that we're on, which has not yet been one of your venues, but it could be, and you have to be on that.
Correct, yeah. I mean, we're limited right now to Native American lands if we want to do a pro show, which is why we kind of went to the amateur approach, because, again, we're doing that, we're sort of relegated to very isolated areas to put on shows, and we want to bring our shows to the bigger cities like Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, that sort of thing. So we necessarily have to do amateur shows as a result. And you were right. I mean, it's crazy. You're looking at that list of great New York fighters. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. We have 2 current UFC title holders out of New York, the very state that still won't permit professional mixed martial arts, which is absolutely crazy. So.
You have put on pro shows, mostly amateur shows, but you're also a non-practicing attorney, but a man with a law degree.
Okay.
So we get these rare opportunities to talk to a bona fide lawyer.
Well, do you have a speeding ticket?
Well, but that's another story.
We'll talk about that later.
It was a quick pass through
that's
Glens
right.
Falls.
It happens.
Long time ago.
It happens to the best of us.
Yeah, but looking at the way things stand right now in New York, and the legislators always almost get there, but they never get the full boat, and we've got attorneys here and attorneys there.
Yep.
Do you think, from the people you talk to, that New York State is really getting closer to MMA? Are we going to sit here a year from now and say, wonder when it's coming?
Yeah, I really don't know. 2 years ago, if you asked me that question, I was pretty confident that we'd see it legalized. I went out to Albany, met with a number of assemblymen, and they assured me that we have sufficient number of votes. If this went to the floor for general vote, it would pass. And it has yet to get to that point. It's very frustrating. Senate passes it every time. The Assembly, it gets held up in committee. For whatever reason, the Speaker of the Assembly has declined to allow it to go for general vote. And so it's very frustrating. Frustrating for me, but I mean, very frustrating for the fighters who devote so much time and effort, into this sport, which is so demanding, and can't fight in front of their own family and friends.
Which is how Gladius basically came about, right?
Right.
Because you had guys that couldn't fight in their own states, and so that's why you started the amateurs and a few pro.
Yeah.
What's ahead in 2014 for Gladius, Dave?
Oh, we're doing some exciting things, actually. Well, we've got a number of shows, and we're coming up with a very unique, novel approach to MMA promotion in 2014, which I can't disclose. Just a little teaser for you.
Wow, thank you.
Isn't it great to have you as a guest? Yeah.
Dave, it's been a pleasure.
Okay, thanks so much,
Dave
Kenny.
MacLean, we appreciate your
it.
time.
All right, thank you.
Gladius is here. There is fighting in MMA, occasionally pro fighting on Native reservations, Native American reservations. A lot of amateur fighting. MMA here, who still knows, boss?